Yeah, and I think that so much of addiction is trauma related.
Yeah.
I think it's just trauma related. And so if we can start to work on some of that stuff when they're younger.
It's like now we're in this thing called recovery where we're like seeking opportunities for growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
What we're really looking and trying to do for them is to help them understand, I'm feeling this way, what are my tools to use to help me with this?
Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing, exciting, and of course enthusiastic episode with yours truly, Christopher Michael Burns, president and founder here at Peaks Recovery Centers, where caring freaking matters. It's no wonder why I'm joined today by somebody who is a phenomenal professional, but even better human, Mr. Robert Blume with Paradigm Programs. Everybody, welcome Robert.
Thanks, Chris.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here, and I love your senior behavioral health advisor at Paradigm Programs. And how long have you been with them, and what does that mean?
I've been with Paradigm about a little over 2 years.
Okay.
So I started in October of 2022. And senior behavioral health advisor, basically my role is to work with clients who are trying to get into treatment or who need to go into mental health treatment. We're a mental health primary facility. We focus on adolescents and young adults. So 12 to 26 in Malibu, the Bay Area, Austin, and now also in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Actually, in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, we can do all adults as well.
Oh, wow.
For mental health. So my job is to go out and talk with the therapists, clinicians, hospitals, other treatment facilities, and let them know what we do. So if they do have a client that needs our services or needs to go into treatment, needs to go into a higher level of care, or is in need of residential treatment, we can get them into our facility. So that's my job, is going out and letting people know, an evangelist for our program.
And you're quite the evangelist, because there was something, and we talked before the show, there was just something really unique that stuck out to me, in my nearly 17 years of doing this, and most of that time on the ownership side. Something that is really, really difficult for me is a lack of authenticity. Like, why are we here? And can we really speak to that, like, in a professional community? If we can't, I just don't really want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And so when Jessica, my cousin, who was our outreach person at the time, was like, you got to meet Robert. You got to meet Robert. In fact, he wants to go snowboarding.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jessica, I don't have the time to go snowboarding. Is this like? She's like, just do it. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And we didn't talk about work or anything. Yeah. And what I realized in that interaction was differently than some of the interactions I've had before with directors of business development, behavior, whatever the title might be in the outreach sphere, is you care. And you care in a really dynamic way. All of your conversations are centered around the people that you get into the program, how they're doing. You walk with them not only from the front end in the admissions process, but throughout their care on the back end. How are they doing? And so you really appear to me somebody who, in addition to Paradigm treatment programs, is somebody that's interested in disrupting this industry through quality of care.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of programs out there. There's a lot of programs that do mental health. There's a lot of programs that work with kids. Or adolescents. There's a lot of programs that work with young adults. But I can say we're one of the best out there. I believe in what we do. I send my friends' kids to our program. Yeah, so I definitely believe in what we do. I myself am sober. I went to treatment myself. Treatment saved my life. I went to a residential treatment program for substance abuse, and it saved my life. It definitely changed the trajectory of my life. So I definitely want to be able to offer that to other people, and to let people know that there is a solution. I worked in the SUD space, substance use space, for about 5 years. That was a great job. I loved it. And now in the mental health space, working especially with adolescents and young adults, most of them do have some substance use But it's more of a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And so they're using it to try and deal with what's going on in their lives, not understanding their emotions, feelings, everything along those lines. They're just like I was as a young gay kid in South Carolina, just that same way. You know, and then at some point in time I crossed the line. And so if we can step in and stop those kids from getting to the point where they cross that line, and they get into active addiction, you know, if we can start to give them some of those tools and say, hey, here's how you can handle those emotions, those feelings, you know, those situations without having to turn to marijuana or alcohol or other substances. You know, if we can stop that and provide those solutions, maybe they won't be 40 years old getting into a substance abuse program and their life blown up.
Right. It's really near and dear to my heart. I know it is to yours. It's like, you know, the 5th grade Chris Burns couldn't sit still to start with. And if we could have had an inflection point where there was a resource introduced that would provide some foundational support, or at the very least to let me know that what was going on wasn't my fault.
Yep.
Right? And you have a really dynamic story, I think, that informs the love and care you have for individuals that are making the courageous decision to seek treatment. What was that like for you? And what do you think a program like Paradigm could have done in your adolescence to help support maybe a different path?
Oh man, I mean, it would just been so different to have someone who could come into what was going on in my life, you know, and provide me with just some tools, just some understanding of my emotions, you know, my thoughts, you know, my dealing with my family unit, you know, as on top of all of that, I'm also adopted, so you know, there's also that piece there, so that always feeling uncomfortable. I think that's something that everyone, or a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous, we always hear, I was always uncomfortable, you know, I never felt like I fit, you know, I didn't. I mean, I definitely didn't. I was in a family of people, I mean, even down to their skin was dark and my skin was like pasty white, you know, so I was always different. And, you know, having some tools to deal with that difference and having some tools to understand what some of those differences were, and not having to internalize it, because I took on all the responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Everything that was going on, I was taking responsibility for it. And so, you know, if I would have had some type of a program like Paradigm that I could have gone to and worked through some of my issues, like I said, I wouldn't have been a 40-something year old washed up person in a drug and alcohol treatment program.
Yeah, well, the person says, it seems like you've done pretty well, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but you speak so clearly to the point. It's like, what can we do now moving forward? And I think adolescent treatment has taken on kind of a new wave of energy, because I think we can get to these things before they become very intense and present their subsequent like risk factors that are very, very alarming. And then when we get to even when you're 22 years old and you're checking into treatment and getting sober at my age, you know, now you're facing 10 years in prison, you got a credit score of 200, you have no family relationships, and you're isolated, disconnected, and all alone. Like, there's gotta be a way, because I think that's what we used to think you had to get into recovery, right? You gotta dig your hole deep enough so you can get in it. And now I think we're just kind of raising that bottom up and speaking so much clearly to the mental health opportunity we have.
Yeah, and I think that so much of addiction is trauma related.
Yeah.
I think it's just trauma related. And so if we can start to work on some of that stuff when they're younger, and really start help them to work through some of it and understand what the trauma is, how to get through it, they don't have to end up as an addict or an alcoholic. You know, sure, some people have a propensity to be an alcoholic or an addict, you know, for sure. You know, there's a subset of the population that for sure, you know, I go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I was in a meeting this morning, so I definitely, it was a great meeting. I heard what I needed to hear.
Here we go.
I woke up in the morning, I was like, I can either look at the news or I can go to a meeting. I'm going to go to a meeting. So, that's just that intuitive thought that I get. And I'm super grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. It definitely saved my life.
Yeah.
It is such an integral part of my life. I'm grateful for everything it did for me. But maybe if I would have had some help earlier, that wouldn't have been the path that I would have ended up in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have made a lot of the decisions that I made. I wouldn't have been in the relationships that I was in. I would not have made the choices that I had made if I would have had someone who helped me see what my worth was. At a younger age.
Yeah.
I've learned that now, 100%.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know what my worth is. I know my value. That doesn't mean I don't have tough days or anything like that. But if I would have had some just support of, here's what your value is. Here's what you can do. It would have just been so different. My path is my path. This is what happened, but everyone's path doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a beautiful journey sitting in front of us today, and I'd say, it's certainly worth it, and it's incredible the amount of progress someone can make in a short period of time connected with the right people. And something that you brought up for me when you were speaking was, we get into recovery, and I think it's important for folks that are potentially seeking treatment at Peaks Recovery or Paradigm to think like, it's actually not a one-stop shop either.
No way.
Maybe you can speak to, because I know you personally and professionally, to maybe the work that was required in treatment and maybe the work that's been required since. And maybe highlight that a little bit for the viewer so they can get the expectations in check. Because I thought at 20, when I first checked into treatment, I'm just going to put the heroines down. We're off to the races, baby.
No.
So correct that for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just like in working the steps 1 through 9, everyone thinks that's all the work. No, it's 10, 11, and 12. So it's after you clean up all your wreckage and all that kind of stuff, then that's when you can really start doing the work. And so, so treatment helped me to get to the point where I could go to work. When I first got sober, I worked in a hardware store, and I would walk to work. I mean, it was about 4 miles from my house, and I would walk to work every day because I didn't even have a car. I worked the night shift, so I worked overnights, and so no one was on staff to take me to work. No one was going to pick me up in 5 in the morning, so I just had to walk to work.
Shift starts at 10.
Yeah, I mean, I started work at 9 o'clock. I got off at 5 a.m.
Wow.
And so I'd have to walk to work every day. And so I had a lot of stuff to clean up. I had just a lot of wreckage to clean up. I was unemployable. I couldn't go to work, but that little job taught me how to go to work, and then I got another job and another job, which just changed my life. Thank God for my education, because because it definitely opened doors for me. When people saw that I had gone to Clemson, they were just like, "Oh yeah, he went to Clemson. He must be able to have a job."
He's an ACC guy. He's good here.
Yeah, so I was able to get a job because of that. Thank God for that. Thank you. So I had a lot of skills. I had a lot of tools, but I didn't know how to use them. And so I was able to get a foundation in Alcoholics Anonymous. But after that, I have done therapy since I got sober.
Yep.
I've been sober for 10 years, and I have been in therapy on and off, not continuously, but I've been in therapy since I got sober.
I love that.
I'm in
Congrats
lots of
on the
different
10
times
years.
of therapy. I mean, just lots of different types of therapy. I would just find what I needed.
Yeah.
When I talk to someone and they're like, "Hey, this really worked for me," I'm going there. That's my next thing. I'm like, someone told me TMS worked, and I was like, "Okay, I'll do TMS."
I love that because because Robert says he's done therapy for the last 10 years doesn't actually mean there's a problem, but in fact there is potentially a solution.
Yeah.
Whoa, that gave me chills because it's like now we're in this thing called recovery where we're like seeking opportunities for growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm in therapy right now, and I'm telling you, I am having an experience with therapy that I just didn't even think was possible. I'm actually, it's actually helping me. in ways that I didn't even know I needed help. You know, that initial therapy, you know, that initial couple years of therapy that I was in, you know, I did a lot of EMDR, I did just a lot of talk therapy, but you know, this is just all different types of therapy in the same therapy session, you know, so some somatic experience, some SE, you know, just everything, just what do you need right now, and then we'll go get the tool and pull it in. So it's not like one type of therapy, it's like all different types of therapy. And so we just pull in whatever I need, brain spotting, you know, somatic experience, talk therapy, you know, and then just some skills-based stuff, because I still need skills. There are still situations where I'm like, I need some skills to deal with this.
Absolutely.
I need some help. And you know, and I'm willing, that is one thing about me, I've always been able to ask for help. I don't know the answers. I'm not all knowing, and if I am uncomfortable, if there are things going on, I'm going to ask for help. And I think that's one of the biggest things that walking into Alcoholics Anonymous helped me with, is that you got to have help.
It's a humility thing.
Yeah, you got to have people to help you.
There's so much power in saying, like, what is it? I can, he can, so let him. Right? It's just like those words to be like, I can't do this by myself. It's powerful and so hard to come by.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I have knelt down on my and just said, God, I need help. I don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden the solution comes.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, how can you not know that this is what's going to happen? Because this is what's going to happen. How can you in any way think that that's not going to happen? You know, so many times I've just had to say, God, I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do.
It's so interesting that exercise of humility is so formidable and palatable. The conversion rate of that is almost synonymous with 100% of the time. I mean, it's just...
It's not what I thought.
No.
Never,
man. I remember my first sponsor, I was on my second step, 2008. And I'm having a tough time, man, because I'm like, this isn't for me. I'm not here like, you know, and I'm unique, just like you, and we suffer from it. And I said, I got nothing to be grateful for, this God thing about the trust and the second step. And he said, Chris, do you pray? And I was like, no, but I'm open to it. He said, what would you pray for? I said, well, you know, I don't have enough money to pay my electric bill, so $68 would be nice in my account, but I have $8. He said, go home and pray about it. I said, Larry, this is crazy. You're crazy. This program's crazy. Two things. I remember like it was yesterday. I prayed for $68 for an electric bill, and I wanted my mom to go to treatment because I was ready to save the world at 90 days sober, and everybody had to get better. And I hadn't talked to my mom, but if I would have, and he said, so what you're going to do is you're just going to say, hey, universe, God, light, whatever. You're just going to throw it out with humility and say, hey, I could really use this money because I need my lights to turn on because I'm in recovery and I need to help people. And my mom, I love her. I just want to see her get well, and I don't want to. And he said, but you don't get to do anything, right? Because Chris's way or the highway is not working. He said, so you just pray about that, send it up, send it out, and forget about it. And I want you to call me in a week and tell me how it turns out. I'm like, Larry, this is some wizardry shit. Like, it's never going to work. 2 days later, Bank of America had been doing a keep the change. I check my bank account every day because at this point I'm working at Woody's gas station, making $7.25 an hour. And I look, and they do a keep the change program. I never knew what keep the change was back then, but it was every dollar you spent. So if you spent 98 cents, 2 cents, rounded up into some account out in the middle of nowhere. Well, they just happened to do the annual rebate 2 days later. Boom, I got $112 in my account. I'm calling my brother Brandon 48 hours after my sponsor gave me that. I'm like, Brandon, you know, I wish mom would just get help. I'm going to call her and tell her, you know, my sponsor didn't tell me to do. He's like, what are you talking about? Mom's in treatment. I'm like, all right, called my sponsor. And it was in that moment, I'm like, I'm all in. Let's go. Because there was this idea that like, if the universe had energy, if you will, what if I was just blocking it? Whoof. Now we're off to the races. So I love when you talk about these opportunities to like, man, hit my knees. And that doesn't strike me as a religious statement. It strikes me as a humble moment. You know? And I think it takes a few of those to find sustainable, long-term, and foundationalized recovery. Spiritual experiences.
Exactly.
You know?
So. And spiritual growth, which
Yeah.
is just important to staying sober.
Yeah.
You know, I'm grateful that I'm willing to get up, that I was willing to get up and go to a meeting this morning. You know, I've had lots of sponsees that they don't want to go to meetings. I'm
Right.
like, okay, well, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I'm not your boss. I'm not here to tell you what to do. You do what you think is right. I'm going to tell you what I do, and you can do what I do, or you can do what you want to do.
Yep.
You know, if you want what I have, I would suggest you go to a meeting, but
Right.
it's your choice. I used to be, I'll tell you what to sponsor, but I'm not
Me too,
anymore. Yeah, I used to be their boss. That's exhausting.
Yeah. You do it so well though, Robert. I think someone once told me, maybe I screw it up, but some of the best form of influence is a life well lived.
Yeah.
And you do that well, and so whether you say it or not, you inform it, and I think people get behind that.
Yeah.
You know, at least I can feel it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, my sponsor at one point in time, he said, you know, you're doing your sponsees programs.
Yeah.
He said, you're going to meetings for them. They only go to meetings that you go to. You know, you're having a meeting at your house so that they can come there. You know, you're doing all this, you're doing their programs.
Yeah.
They have to do their programs.
It's hard.
And that was hard for me to do.
Yeah.
That was hard for me to stop doing their programs for them. And it was hard for me to see them make the mistakes. But, you know, that's what's going to sustain them, not me doing their program for them. And it was tough. It was tough for me to stop that. But, you know, I feel better now that I've stopped it. I'm not worried about if they're going to a meeting or not.
Right.
It's call me if you want to go to a meeting. Call me. We'll go to a meeting.
Yeah.
But I'm not managing their meeting attendance.
Exactly. That's pretty tiring.
Yeah. It's exhausting. I mean, for a bunch of 20-year-olds managing their meeting attendance.
Yeah.
You know, did you go to a meeting today?
Did you get your form signed by Mr. Blume?
Exactly. You know, and that was just exhausting. I don't have to do that anymore. So, you know, I'm grateful for that time. Hey, that shit kept me sober. Guess who was going to all the meetings?
Exactly.
Me. So,
Did I ever tell you they used to call me the sobriety reaper? Did I ever tell you that? Yeah, because I was like captain AA. I'm like secretary of the largest meeting and all this stuff. And I got all these sponsees at all these treatment programs around town, and every one of them is getting high, like every other week. Yeah. And I'm like, they would be like, "Ooh, the sobriety reaper." Yeah. I'm like, so I would go to my sponsor at the time, John, amazing guy. Yeah. Amazing guy, 30 years of recovery, head of probation. It was perfect for me. And I'd say, John, man, you know, I think I'm really hurting these people. But it's back to your point. He would always say in his living room, "What's the most important thing?" I said, "That I'm here with you today." He said, "It's working, baby. Let's go." And I'm like, oh, like and we're here today. Yeah. And that's the mission, that's the vision, and we'll continue to impact lives along the way. And there'll be people that'll make that courageous decision one day at a time. Because it really is just about investing in yourself.
Oh yeah.
You know, and are you willing to put yourself first today? And the answer for a lot of people walking through substance use recovery is no, because of the shame. So they need great people like you around them to help lift that and share it with them.
And a lot of them don't really understand what putting themselves first means.
Yeah.
They think it's being selfish.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's Alcoholics Anonymous does a great job of saying, okay, well, be selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look what you can get. Yeah. You
Some
go ahead.
people can afford to be more selfish than others.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
Before we get off, and I just really appreciate, you know, I'm Chris Burns, turning professional conversations personal since 2008. I really appreciate the vulnerability and authenticity. But before we get off, in regards to Paradigm and anything new and exciting that you guys have, that we want the viewers to know, that we're connecting with, one of the things I did want to mention that, if I'm not mistaken, the access to care at Paradigm is kind of second to none with respect to the quality of care.
So you know, our real things that we're looking for is we want people to get access to care. So we want anyone who you know, who has private insurance to be able to go to treatment and not have to mortgage their home. Yeah. You know, so we're really interested in giving access to care. You know, allowing them to come into treatment, get what they need, mental health treatment.
You're mostly a network, right?
Affordable care. We have a lot of in-network contracts. We work on an out-of-network basis with them, and we'll work with clients, you know, whatever they need to get into care. We don't want that to be a barrier. We don't want them to say, I don't have the money. We want to help them work with that, you know, in whatever ways we can. We also, so that access to care, affordable care, and then, we want to give them good care. So when I say that, we do 5 individual therapy sessions a week.
That is the biggest differentiator I've ever heard. When you first said that, I've never met anybody in my whole career that does that.
Yeah.
Just say that.
They're doing therapy all the time.
5 individual sessions.
Yeah.
People come to our program, Robert, and they're like, you guys are so amazing, you do 2.
Yeah. Plus a parent therapy session as well on top of that. And then the biggest thing that really just differentiates our program is we have clinical support from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. If a kiddo's awake, they got a clinician that they can have access to.
And it's not a phone call.
No.
That's beautiful.
So you've been in treatment forever, nothing happens when you're in group.
Yeah.
Everything happens in the afternoon when you're having lunch or when you're out on an outing. That's when the real work can happen, because that's in the moment. So having that access to clinical support at all times while the kiddos are awake, that's really what makes a difference.
Yeah.
We're an insight-based facility, so we are not behavioral. So no punishments, no rewards, no level systems. What we're really looking and trying to do for them is to help them understand, I'm feeling this way, what are my tools to use to help me with this?
That's beautiful.
How can I, when I leave this place and I'm not in this controlled environment, what can I do when I feel this anxiety? What can I do when I feel suicidal?
Yeah.
What can I do when I feel like I want to self-harm? What can I do when I'm depressed? What can I do when I don't feel like going to school? What can I do when I'm upset with my parents, when I'm upset with my friends, when my boyfriend breaks up with me, when my girlfriend breaks up with me? What can I do to really help myself in that moment, and giving them tools so that they understand that? Behavioral works great for lots of kids, but most kids, they need that understanding of why they feel that way.
It's relational.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now we can be relational with developing young people.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
Definitely.
I love that, Robert. It's just like, because we were coming out of this, and I love that you mentioned that too, because we're coming out of this like when I was a kid, boarding school model, very punitive, behavioral modification.
Yeah.
To step back, if somebody would have asked me a good question, like you were talking about, when I was a young kid, I might have given you a good answer.
Yeah.
But since you ask dumb questions like what's wrong with you, we'll continue to be stuck.
Yeah.
I love what you guys are doing, creating autonomy, and some relationality with young people. I bet that's like the biggest beacon of hope they've ever seen.
Well, so many of them, they live a life of this. We're a phone-free facility too. So
I love it.
And so this is the way they live their life. They don't even know how to carry on a conversation. They don't know how to be in a group setting without the phone. So much of their personal definition of themselves is based on the phone. So when you take that away for a little while, they can really start to learn who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in community, which is so, to be seen, valued, and heard in community as a 12-year-old these days.
Yeah. Yeah, our milieu is our magic. 100%.
Yeah.
That 12 client program where they're with each other all day long, they're dealing with each other with clinical support all day long. That's just magic.
It is magic, and it bucks the industry standard by a long shot, especially for providers that have access to care, are in network. 12-person programs, and not only are they intimate group settings, but Paradigm can get you in a spot that meets you right where you're at. They have such a diversity of offerings. Throughout, what do you have, 10 to 12 different programs?
Well, we have, we're in 4 different locations.
4 different locations,
Yep.
Okay. And diverse offerings from levels of care in those locations as well.
Yeah.
So really, if you're out there struggling, or you have a young person struggling, give them a call, because at the very least, they can educate you on a potential opportunity in the future, or meet you right where you're at today. So make sure and give them a call. What is your guys' website?
It's paradigmtreatment.com.
Paradigmtreatment.com.
Yep.
And if you get lucky enough to deal with somebody like Robert, which I think you will over at Paradigm Treatment, you'll be in phenomenal, loving, and caring hands. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks, Chris.
real opportunity to know you both personally and professionally.
I feel the same way, 100%.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks.
All right, folks, until next time, peace.